After a harrowing experience in Arkham Asylum with the Blackgate criminals, we open to Bruce Wayne holding a press event outside of a massive part of the city that's been converted into a new and much larger asylum under the Arkham name with all the original inmates, as well as the people at Blackgate shipped in. There's no way this could go badly. We start up our gameplay with Bruce being tortured, trying to escape, getting beaten up, being threatened, being beaten up, using his handcuffs to beat up some guys, and breaking free of his shackles. I suppose now is as good a time as any to establish the rules we'll live and die by today. To carry on our legacy of the everyday person, and their potential with a whole lot of money, we'll be avoiding throwing hands, feet, elbows, heads, and so on. No unarmed strikes. We'll see how far we can get without Batman's training. This means we'll be avoiding takedowns in stealth or otherwise. We'll also be avoiding any counter we don't absolutely have to. We'll be getting back to this rule later. Trust me, we'll be getting back to it. To honor the great Edna, we shall adhere to no capes, at least for the purpose of attacking. Fighting is still on the table because you can't make me take it off. It's my table, I sat here first. Finally, when, not if, when we accidentally violate these rules, we'll be stepping back and reloading the last checkpoint to correct for our mistakes. Otherwise, gravity, glitches, and a whole lot of shenanigans are still on the table. Bring it on. Bruce is making ample use of his shackles, which is like a gadget. We're immediately hit with a whole lot of mandatory counters, as well as a mandatory strike. As far as I can tell, there's no way to progress past this without swinging, so we'll be swinging our shackle gadget to carry on. Yes, the shackles are a gadget now. If you disagree, then I submit to you that the run is over before it can begin. Otherwise, I'll see you a penguin who hits us, literally, with another mandatory counter. Bending the rules a bit, we no longer have the use of our shackles once they're off, and I wouldn't feel good throwing any hands I don't have to, so we're gonna need a way out of here. Luckily, with a quick roll, that I definitely didn't spend half an hour attempting, we can hop our happy asses up to a ladder and make our way out of the area. Yeah, Alfred, I'm gonna need you to send my stuff. No, all of it. Yes, even though we escaped to the rooftops where we don the mantle of the Dark Knight. It's time to throw a lot of bullshit. The guy that brought us in here goes by Hugo Strange. He set up this whole city nonsense and was blathering on about Protocol 10, a mysterious order that's set to go off in around 10 hours. We find out pretty quickly that Catwoman is being held by Two-Face and figure that she might have an idea as to what Protocol 10 is so we can figure out how to put it to rest. This time around, we get to play with some of our toys right off the bat. No foul play needed. We take some time to blast some guys with our bread and butter from Arkham Asylum, the explosive gel. It got an upgrade that lets you deploy it a lot faster, so it's not working. It turns out that it can knock people out in this game. We also start with the Bat Claw, so maybe we can just throw some dudes over ledges. Well, more bad news. Gravity still works its magic, but unlike Asylum, Arkham City requires your opponents to fall a relatively long distance before being knocked out. What's worse, this game has a lot, and I mean a lot, of invisible walls to protect enemies from just that. Both of my favorite tools from the first game got nerfed pretty hard. This was about when I was worried I was going to be throwing in the towel before things even began. But it turns out, we still have another gadget to consider. I can't imagine most casual players know this, but batarangs can knock enemies out. And I do have to emphasize that batarangs can. Plural. As in many of the things. You can throw 3 in quick succession, but they each do so little to put your opponents down that even basic fights become a slog, and that's with basic enemies. This one's gonna be rough.
The only way to get by in this place is to get ourselves some respect. Be here.
We catch up to the cat, who's being held by a man that needs genuine psychiatric help, but instead was put here.
We should be fair, though. This is a place of justice, after all. Screw justice. Kill her, and they'll all fear us.
After he slaps her around a bit, we throw enough batarangs to make anyone wonder where the hell we're keeping all of these.
Objection. Overruled.
Get shot to the worst one-liner I can remember hearing in recent history. Two-Face gets his face bisected again. Fails to effectively use either his
2 guns, bitch!
before getting tied up by Batman. I know I'm not the only one to ask, but how did he get the rope tied around his arms? You're seeing him being brought up to Batman's level, and nobody touched him in between. So where did it come from? We also see the same rope around his legs, which is clearly not the rope that's used in the Batclaw. So what the hell happened, Rocksteady? We save her from the Joker before using some really fancy tech to identify where the bullet came from. Easy to be the world's greatest detective when your gadgets do the work for you, I guess. We trace the bullet back to a church where we find Harley Quinn. No problem, just gotta... Okay, she can dodge batarangs. That's alright, we can just... What the fuck? You can't just say you dodged it, that clearly hit you! So, turns out she's immune to throwables. She's not, however, immune to this. She leaves, and we decide not to follow her in favor of helping some hostages.
Good.
We get some mandatory stealth here that poses a problem. Suddenly, Batman is concerned about hitting people, and these guys are immune to everything we possibly have access to. So, here's where the run arguably ends. It was a good attempt. Round up next week. But what if I said that it didn't matter? I'll get back to why later, but we finish out our stealth tutorial, begrudgingly, and carry on. We climb to the top of the church to find out that the Joker was using a remote-controlled gun, and also that the whole top area was full of bombs. I hope the people downstairs like the taste of shrapnel. It takes the world's greatest detective, a radio tracking device, to find the Joker in a steel mill that's been outfitted to look like a circus with loudspeakers blasting his voice as well as Harley's to the various guys dressed in clown gear. Truly, the greatest. Of course, Batman decides to head in through the raging inferno inside. Sensible, I guess.
The steam from the furnace will boil me alive.
He then complains about the steam before, yeah, no. That there is a roast bat. Any exposed skin in that proximity to molten steel is going to have the consistency of an ice cube in an air fryer. We pop up to throw down, and throw we do. We find out that Harley is collecting doctors to try to help the Joker. After the events of the last game, he's not doing so hot, and the doctors aren't doing him any good either. But we can't get up to her right now. So, we skulk around and save someone in the process. We're trapped inside, but traps are more of a suggestion when you've got money to burn. We rig up an electric thrower, because Batman doesn't use guns. Meet the Remote Electric Charge, or REC gun for short. You might not know how useful this bad boy is for this run, but you will. You will. We make our way back next to the room with Harley to break in. No big deal. Okay, sort of big deal. This guy may only have one arm, but that's all he needs to be a massive thorn in my side. He's slow, but he's tough as nails. Batarangs don't hurt him. He can't be knocked off of anything. Explosives don't phase him. The rec gun is one of the few gadgets that does anything. It makes him twirl a bit, which hurts enemies around him, but dude's immune. Now I know what you might be thinking, but I'm not going to lay a hand on him. In fact, I don't plan on fighting him here at all. With some clever use of the environment, thank you speedrunning community, we glide right past him and carry on to see the Joker dead.
You've hounded him for years, beat him to a pulp, and for what? Why are you so mean?
Surprise! You fell for the old fake Joker gag, Batman.
And this gag ends in us being drugged and beaten. We awake to find out that the Joker is dying. He says he has no idea what Protocol 10 is, and we of course take him at his word after he fooled and drugged us. We discover that his blood has become poisonous to himself and everyone else. He's injected some into Batman, which is now killing him. I guess this implies that the Joker somehow knows Batman's blood type. Or maybe the Joker is a universal donor. Or he was banking on it maybe not killing him with a bad transfusion. Or maybe I'm once again considering this more than the devs thought. As an added incentive to find a cure, Joker's apparently been sending his blood to blood banks all over Gotham, meaning a lot of people could die if I don't help. We're told that Mr. Freeze has the only progress on a cure that we have any hope of finding, so off to the old popsicle we go. We throw shit at a room full of dudes. Twice, because I misclicked while marveling at this guy. And then I interrogate this guy. This, I don't think counts, but that's debatable. Turns out, Penguin kidnapped Freeze before we could find him. I guess we should get the whole gang in on this wild goose chase. We meet Knifey McGee here, who threatens us with a knife. He knows we've been fighting gun-wielding nutjobs with these here batarangs, yeah? Penguin is apparently using some security that we can only get through if we take out some interference generators. In retrospect, seriously, how many errands do I have to run before I can get back to my first goal? We throw a lot of things at a lot of guys before performing some percussive maintenance. And you might be thinking that this counts as punching, and I raise you a counterpoint. This is clearly me operating a gadget. Operating it into breaking, but operating nonetheless. By the third device, I'd found out that you don't even need to beat all the enemies first, so I take some hits and rush through. That'll teach you to defend your devices by standing as far away from them as possible. We go back to the museum to confront Penguin, and what was genuinely my least favorite part of the entire run. And I mean that with the utmost hate for this place. This is our first time seeing a guy wearing body armor, and what will become standard affair, this guy is immune to pretty much anything that would actually mean anything to knock him out. I'd be worried if I wasn't standing on stairs. He should be easy enough to handle. Just pull him over the rails, and the rails all have invisible walls. Because of course they do. After a lot of experimentation, I got an idea. I can't pull him over the rail, sure. I also can't pull him down the stairs, he just falls over and gets back up. And in case you're wondering, I can't leave the room without defeating everyone in here, so that's out too. So what gives? Well, if you angle your back claw just right, you can pull enemies up walls. It doesn't really help much unless you have a hardy incline, but you pull him up and down he goes. Turns out we have some cops to rescue in the area. We immediately fail to rescue one and then elect to take on all challengers. We have a fight pit to win. A whole lot of dudes with a whole lot of attitude. After showing the supremacy of our gadgets, Penguin pulls out a Titan enemy from the first game with one key difference. These dudes are about as tough as Bane. Explosives, rec gun, you name it. Devs just didn't like gadgets this go-around. And these guys are immune. This room is also locked up pretty tightly, so gliding out isn't really an option. I even tried pressing some buttons that we have access to after the fight, but they're not interactable yet. Did I say we're going to beat this fight pit? I meant we're going to cheat. We're going to cheat hard. We're going to move backwards to move forward. I first reloaded an old save that I kept just in case, to head back into the room with the body armor dude. We then need to activate wallet mode, the mode where money carries us and we cheat our way to victory. See, this game was made with spaghetti code. Pull the noodles and the sauce falls right off. When you open a door, you're forced into an animation where you go through it. The game deloads the area you were just in to save on processing power. Sure, the game runs like ass if you have it open for too long, but I digress. What if, though, you were to fire something like the wreck just in an instant before opening the door? Shouldn't matter, but it matters a whole heck of a lot. Batman, seeing such violence, becomes afraid for the door's health and must stay behind to see it recover, and thus refuses to go through. This allows you to hang out in a now deloaded room. You can still interact with things, though, so it's not all gone. This doesn't really help much by itself. See, the game is weird about gadgets and the state they're in. When you quick fire or aim a gadget, the game remembers whether you're standing, in cover, on a rail, on a wire, so on. Again, this doesn't really help on its own. This is referred to by the speedrunning community, though, as storage. What good is storage, then? Well, that's where the wreck gun comes in. If you fire it and then switch to another gadget really quickly, you get what's called wreck storage. The timing is hard to land, but if you do it just right, you get the ability to lose all movement. Neat, huh? Now, in exchange for losing all your movement, there are a couple things you can do here. For our purposes, though, we need to get past the fight pit, so we need to zip. Zipping is what the community calls what is essentially just teleportation. While you have wreck storage, you can swap either your batarang or your remote control batarang to use their storage. For these purposes, you should have corner storage specifically, or in other words, the last time you used either, you should have been taking corner cover, like so. When you use the corner storage, you're put into a crouched animation that you aren't supposed to be able to reach through normal methods. You still can't move, but you could stand up, I guess. Or you could toss a batarang and teleport. I couldn't honestly tell you how to aim the zips. Positioning, timing are key, and they're complicated. Even fractions of a second seem to throw you to completely different parts of the map. If I'm being honest, I spent literal hours practicing again and again, trying to get this to work like I needed to skip a single fight. The timing on the door alone took me ages. I kept losing my storage by taking out the wrong gadget, quick throwing one, or just throwing myself into the abyss under the map. Getting wreck storage was also challenging. I got better at it over time, but again, kudos to the speedrunning community that can do these things more cleanly than I could ever hope to. If any runners are watching this, I hope my explanation was even passable, because the nuance to these skills still blows my mind, and I'm sorry for how bad this probably looks to someone more experienced. I ended up having to sleep on it and try again. I almost gave up on it in favor of a different game for a bit, but I had to. I hadn't gotten much better, but I was improving, and with that, I messed up. I teleported over Penguin in his fight pit. This isn't where the zip is supposed to take you, but it doesn't matter. I'm not trying for a time, I'm trying to progress. For me, this is just fine. And then I trapped myself inside a room I couldn't get out of. Fuck! What the hell are the odds that I'll be able to do... Oh hey, I did it again. I'm not a speedrunner. I don't want to be. I'm genuinely bad at games. For me, this was lightning striking twice, and I was determined to get it right. I got nearer to where Freeze was being held, and I can't tell you how good it finally felt to get through that section. And while it was the hardest, it still wasn't the end of my troubles here. We helped a guy out before finding a shark named Tiny. Seems friendly. We then saved some guys in the slowest movement in the game. I see why runners skip this. This is dreadful. We're introduced to thermal vision cameras that can see us in stealth more easily. Honestly not an issue, and my problem solving looks like... Penguin is using Mr. Freeze's ice gun, which is somehow better than a normal gun. It has no known weakness. Somehow. And also, he has a force field that protects him. Somehow. Honestly, the fuck is going on? We go to find Freeze in hopes that he can help us with the gun and the whole I'm poisoned and actively dying thing. But we encounter a problem. And of course, it's another guy in body armor. Him and his buddies are hiding behind some Penguin security which we can get through easily, and they don't aggro until then. But once they do, I can't really do much about this guy. I tried the stairs, but the angle's weird, and I'm not sure if I can make him fall far enough. I had an idea though. What if I reloaded the area? Maybe he wouldn't respawn? Well, I was kind of right. Because this game has dry hamburger code, it looks like he didn't quite load in right, and never aggroed against me. Take a bite, and the tomatoes fall right out. We're faced with our next issue though. If and when we spray explosive gel on this wall, we get beat up by this big dude with a sickle. Honestly, this Gadget is causing a lot more problems in this run than the last. No worries though. The speedrunning community has done it again. Because this game was made with overstuffed burrito code, we can fire the wreck at about the same time we quickfire the explosive gel. When we do this just right, it tries to put the gel where it last blew up. If we line it up just right, it'll get stuck on its way there and end up in the wall. Normally, quickfire gel can only be put on the floor and can't blow up walls. But in this case, you try to close it and the beans come pouring right out. We gently ask Freeze some questions by threatening him with death as well as threatening his wife. Pretty cold, Batman. We say hi to this dude who's chilling outside. Before asking a normal dude, who's gadgetless by the way, to get a chemical concoction over to Freeze via a path that is only traversable via a huge pool of water with an extremely aggressive shark. Good luck, buddy! After spending hours of my life breaking this game, the game breaks, and then so do I. And so do I. Being more careful this time, I find out that there's a scripted sequence where I have to punch a shark. That simply won't do. While trying to make sure I was capturing this footage, I ironically lost some. We should get another chance to see this later, so to explain for now, we'll be using what's called a wreck jump. Dodges are done by double tapping the bottom face button, in this case A. If we tap A once, then fire the wreck gun, then A the second time, all in quick succession, we get an animation where Batman just kind of floats forward. Not very useful, unless we go over a ledge or rail, because this game was made with cotton candy code, introduce some water, and the whole thing melts. The wreck jump allows us to glide right over the shark, and we head in to face Penguin armed with a gadget that can temporarily disarm the ice gun. It sounds nicer than it is. If we're not holding down the button to use it, he shoots us. No ifs, ands, or buts. We can kind of sit near him for as long as we want, but that's kind of all we've got. We're forced to knock him off his table with a swift punch. It only gets better though. After knocking him out, Penguin blows up a lot of shit, which somehow doesn't hurt himself or really even Batman. And we find Solomon Grundy, a guy who... I don't know much about him. Hey, what's your deal?
Solomon Grundy, born on a Monday, christened on Tuesday, married on Wednesday.
But he looks tough, and apparently is really hard to kill, so here we go. We move the fight forward by blowing up these electric vent things, which works for me. I'm not sure what they did, but they won't be doing anything when I'm done. And of course, the running theme for this run, we can't hurt him with any form of gadget. Gotta be more cinematic and punch him a lot. Not even the cape works. He's zapped back to fighting, and we're forced to do it again. Trust me, buddy, this hurts me a lot more than it hurts you. He then shocks himself, and us with him. This amount of electricity would absolutely be lethal if it was going through us. Can't imagine it would, though, since the path of least resistance would be through him and his feet, since we're not touching the ground. We then are forced to break free of his grasp, to twist the knife in my wound. After this phase, we have to use melee again, and this game is mocking me. If this man can be killed, then exploding whatever organ that was likely just did it. Holy shit, Batman. We then have to fight Penguin directly, which consists of running up to him to throw some... Is he seriously immune too? Why are you doing this to me? You're telling me that this incompetent little asshat can dodge things coming from behind him? And even things through smoke screens. He doesn't even need to see what's hitting him to dodge like a champ. I'm not happy. But, as much as this whole thing hurts me, I will still say to you that this whole thing doesn't really matter. It does and it doesn't, I guess. You'll see. We cape him repeatedly before using a takedown, because it felt better than hitting him even more otherwise. It still feels like shit. We ask Freeze for the cure that he was working on, only to find out that he doesn't have one. To make one, we need a chemical that can only be found from the work of one guy. So, the goose chase continues. We personally offend this lady, who decides that the best way to get back at us for speaking her master's name is to run off and lead us to him via a trail of blood. That'll show me! We track her down when we find out that the trail ends with some bandages. Now we have no way to track. Are you serious, lady?
The only way to find Raish.
If you're just gonna stand there, I might as well follow you. She's supposed to be a master of stealth? The bar must be pretty low. This one is questionable. It's technically a counter, but not really an attack. I just put a tracker on her. It is skippable, actually, but I did mess this up, and the game saved. I didn't want to replay everything up to this point, and if you're willing to trust me, this still might not matter. I need you to hang with me here. Anyways, Robin helps us out.
I didn't need your help.
Batman is a dick.
I'll get into the hospitals and come back. You need my help here.
Robin continues to help us anyways.
If you need me, you know where I am.
I know. Now go.
And Batman is a dick. Honestly, fucking rude. We're reminded that we only have 5 hours until Protocol 10 occurs, and we're no closer to finding out what it is. Following the tracking device on this master of stealth, we make our way underground where Batman shows signs of dying. We're faced with an armored enemy in the one place there isn't an invisible wall. Nifty. In the very next room, we find out that some enemies can jam our detective vision. The humanity of it all! We rescue a lady who's kidnapped from a place outside of Arkham City entirely. We gather that Hugo Strange is supplying these inmates with weapons and helping to kidnap various people to bring in here. We then make another mistake and enter this place. See, if we were to skip the assassin section, we'd also be skipping through this area, but I didn't do that. And these ladies are, say it with me now, immune to all of our gadgets. Who at Rocksteady hated gadgets so damn much? You can stun them for a moment, I guess, but what does it matter if you can't knock them out? I tried to bring them into the next area to fight them, but it's filled with invisible walls and more of the assassins. So I'm shit out of luck here. For those counting, that's at least 2 mandatory takedowns, 2 times I had to attack Penguin, and 3 times I had to attack Solomon. A cleaner run won't have any assassin problems, but I promise we're getting to that. We venture into an area that's apparently super advanced for when it was made. Turns out the super secretive organization that leaves corpses as warnings and or evidence has their whole place protected by just a hidden door. I know that they're big, bad, and scary and all, but what if you came in with something more advanced than swords? Sure, they can dodge batarangs, but what about bullets? This whole thing is stupid. And while we see this person use what looks like a key, the woman that attacks us is using a sword, which we're forced to counter, and then use to open this door. What was that other person holding? Because once they have a tiny sword in their clearly empty hand, their sword is still on their back. Who reviewed this and said it was fine? Inside realistically isn't very special, except where we're reminded once again that Batman desperately needs therapy. I understand that childhood trauma isn't something that a person just gets over. That's okay. Healing can take a lifetime, and not all wounds will ever close. But this man is haunted by these visions, and instead chooses to get out his emotions by throwing shit at people who commit petty crimes. Also, we're still dying.
How did you find us?
I recognized your personal guard. It was just a matter of following her.
Please, mistress, he tricked me.
The daughter of the leader of a League of Secret Assassins' personal guard gives a shitty excuse as to why she was really easily followed. Like, are you blaming me for finding you? Because it seems like your own fault that you aren't better at your job.
I'm here to take my place at your side.
Batman then lies to the poor girl in front of him for his own personal gain. I know his one rule is no killing, but this is the second time he's emotionally manipulating the people he's working with to further his goals in this game. And that's just off memory. I get that you're dying, but this isn't a good look.
When the blood of the demon takes hold, you will be on your own.
Like always.
Batman is once again a dick. We drink some weird juice, which can only end well. What's in this? Blood of the demon, you say? Seems normal.
Course through your veins, restoring
Yeah, seems normal. Our tests will prove our worth to lead the assassins to bring about a new world. The tests are basically just gliding challenges. I see why people struggle to pass these. They're basically hand-built for people with a glider. Come to think of it, how the hell did Ghul pass them? He can't glide at all, can he? Did he bring a glider in? What the hell happened? We're then faced with sand dudes. These ones are, once again, immune to gadgets. You know, I'm getting really tired of this. While the explosive gel can't knock them out, though, there apparently isn't an invisible wall here. So, I'll count that as a win. Nice to see those from time to time. For the uninitiated, Raisha's been using a pit of chemicals to keep himself alive for hundreds of years. It hasn't done much for the mind, but it's cured him of death on multiple occasions. So he has that going for him. We need his blood for our cure, so we gotta find the real him and take it. We do more gliding, and a little more sand fighting to get out of the visions. Honestly, super easy, even within our rule set. We find the man who tells us that our final challenge is to kill him and take up his mantle. We refuse, and admit that we lied to his daughter's face. She's of course thrilled. We then allow him to use his pit to heal and strengthen himself. What could possibly go wrong there?
Now, only one of us can leave this chamber alive.
We'll see about that.
He threatens our life, and we threaten to allow him to live. He says it with so much bravado, but is that really a threat? We now have to fight back in Drugland. His sand dudes are vulnerable to batarangs, which is a notable improvement, but he is not. Once again, boss is a mandatory punch target. And by now you're probably sick of hearing it, but this is merely a hurdle for later to take care of. We're then hit with some mandatory counters, which is fun. His daughter begs us to kill him, which just seems odd. We're then attacked by a lot of him, which looks like a mandatory counter, but is actually just an attack we can tank, albeit taking some heavy damage in the process. He becomes a living sandcastle, which we blast with electricity. Makes as much sense as any of the rest of us. We beat up an old man to take his sword. For the record, I wasn't pressing buttons here, this was all Batman. The man then holds his own daughter at knife point, telling us to kill him. This upsets Talia. We hit him in the back of the head with a batarang, and shortly after, take his blood by force. His daughter is pissed off that we lied to her and that her father threatened her life, and I get half of that. But she wanted him to die. If you're willing to kill for a cause but not die for it, you're not committed, you're a monster. The little we drank is at least going to keep us alive a bit longer, but We then tell him to shut this whole business down and otherwise leave him to his own. It's not like that ended badly when we ignored Poison Ivy in the Asylum. Robin lets us know that the poisoning of the city is going well, for Joker, so things are going swimmingly. Now by now you might think that we're finally free of my mistake in not skipping past the first mention of Robin. Not so. See, the proper route for this run has you opening a path that you can't access through the way I went. And the original route has you put in a room full of guys recruited by the Joker's men, and one of them has on some body armor. And I'm not going to give you the runaround, I have no way of beating this guy. I'm really wishing that I had skipped that bit. It's not even that hard, especially compared to the literal hours I spent practicing in the museum. But anyways, I accept another painful mistake in this run, and move forward. Escaping the underground, we find out that the mayor and former warden of Arkham Asylum has been arrested and thrown in here with us. It's not hard to find and interrogate him. He apparently has some friends that handed him his political victory in exchange for this mess of a city and putting Strange in charge. Finally, we make progress on our goose chase when we bring Freeze the blood we promised.
I'm a man of my word, Victor. You should know that by now.
And lie to his face like we lied to Talia. Freeze then threatens us by destroying the cure he just made. His only demand is that we bring him his wife, who was kidnapped by the Joker. We, of course, would like to fight him instead. This fight uses gadgets, sure, but it means we have to hit him. After defeating him, we find out that the cure has been stolen from his safe, and we immediately promise to get his wife back. Then what was the fucking point of this whole fight? We do now have a new gadget, though. That he handed it to us willingly, I might add. Freeze grenades. These will be as necessary to this run as the ret gun. Good thing he handed us an infinite supply, I guess. A random reporter is shot down, of course survives, and we stop everything we're doing to go help her. I know he's a hero and all, but come on, Batman, bigger fish. There are a lot of people that have the Joker's blood in them, and none of them drank the blood of the demon. They got the transfusion shortly after you got one, and you were on death's door before the chalice, so I think it's safe to say that those people in hospitals are dead. We needed to get back into the steel mill to get the Joker and the cure, but of course it can't be that simple. We get inside to find another armored dude that I can't deal with, so I had no choice but to step back to the save that I backed up, because I learned from my last mistake. Too little, too late! This here is apparently called the Stacy skip. It, basically just involves flying through the map a little here. Going through this door deloads most of the map, which is handy. And while this is an outdated version of the skip, it's more in my wheelhouse for general skill level. We glide over to here and use the line launcher to climb up just a touch higher. Relocating, we then use it to go over a giant gap in the map. I know you can't see it because you can't see anything, but trust me, there's a bottomless pit down there. We pivot off of this piece of barely loaded environment to land on part of the map that you once again can't see. How speedrunners find these things, I will never know. After that, we just go through this door here and reload our last save. Please keep in mind that, like most of these skips, this was all just to get past a single enemy.
Protocol 10 will commence in 10 minutes.
Good thing we're finally almost back to square one. Almost. Unless I missed something, we still know nothing about it, but at least we're back to the Joker, who's looking as good as ever. I'm pleasantly surprised to find out that the Joker is actually vulnerable to gadgets. Holy shit, a boss fight that I can use batarangs. Finally, I can fight Hammer Dude. Gotcha. That's gonna be it. Titan. Why does this game love to play with my heart? I can't take these games! We take another temporary loss and push through. Temporary. When back goes Squish. Talia offers the Joker immortality in exchange for her life. He takes the offer, and she points out that she wants us to track her. Thanks, I guess. Catwoman shows up to save our sorry ass. Always alone, huh? Protocol 10 goes into full swing. Strange has convinced the city that the people in here are out of control and need to be hit with a shit ton of missiles. And this is somehow approved? The hell kind of plan is this? Euthanize all the criminals in Gotham while causing a shit ton of destruction and likely scaring the hell out of all the people outside? And all the people dragged in here. This whole thing is a mess.
I can't do that.
I didn't ask how many years of batarangs I've already gone through, I said send me more! Anyways, to cut it really long story short, we're going to be seeing an armored enemy that we can't fight. And this one is different. This one is going to count for real. No takesies backsies. No do-over. No recount for all the marbles. So we need to not fight him. To do that, we need a plan. We head back to what looks like the Stacy skip, just head through the ceiling of the same building, but this time we're going elsewhere. We simply glide under the city, and then under the city. Following this route, we'll be skipping getting the codes we need from the helicopters altogether. We'll be landing in a place we were in earlier. It might not look super familiar, but trust me, I've been through here. As big as the map is, there's still a lot of backtracking in this game. By this point, I had some experience with exploiting this game, and while I wasn't good enough to do some of the glitches here, I was able to unload a room. Easy peasy. If you ignore how many tries it took me. From there, I used the ice particles to find my way around, I then glided to part of the map you're not supposed to be able to get to, and then I needed to activate the rec storage to use the batarang storage I got while standing on a rail. Not overly complicated at all. From there, it was simply a matter of using another bug. When you throw freeze grenades while standing on a rail, they send you up just a bit. The rail brings you back down, but I'm not on one now. If you quick fire them, you can go up until you hit something. It also sends you forward just a smidge, which is good to keep in mind. But because this game was made on overly yeasty bread code, I rise unhindered! We make our way to the center of this big black block to load in the top of the map. We then make our way away from the center because we don't want to bonk our head. Batman is already suffering from way too many concussions by this point. From there, we instigate a fight. Hi, armored enemy! Jump into an elevator shaft to avoid the fight. Bye, armored enemy! And we only need to trigger a few story bits to carry on. A lot of people are getting shot or blown up, but if we could take a quick break, I'd like to clue you in on what the whole later thing is about. This moment in the game, this enemy that we can't beat, there's a reason that these are the ones that matter. And it's simple. These are the first troubles you'll see on New Game Plus. If we were to start over, if we were to start more prepared, we just need to rush by the intro, get our gear. Then we need to stand on this rope and hold the batarang. Rope storage, here we go. If we zip right here, we can land right next to where we started. Seems counterproductive, but then we can go underground. We're not technically supposed to be here yet, but we're right next to the base of the tower. Now, the skip is a little different. We can't just go up the side of the tower. It wouldn't load right. I know from experience. Instead, we just need to zip inside the elevator. Honestly, after everything I've been through, sounds harder than it is. We hack the code that we shouldn't have yet, and begin our ride up. The big doors at the top won't open for us, but we can just grapple through it like so. The tender state code can't stop us. We tear right through. The only way to escape this fight now, though, would be to fly. If only we could do that. If only. But otherwise, we're back to where we were. All of our struggles up until now, all of our tripping points with the Hammer Guy, the Sickle, Penguin, Solomon Grundy, Mr. Freeze, even the stealth tutorial. We skipped it all. Arguably, we haven't had to throw a single fist in stunning our suit. We perform a wreck jump off the ledge to reach high enough to grapple to our destination. We have to clear out some guys on the top, but their AI is broken because they're only partially loaded, so this is only as hard as throwing batarangs until they go down. From there, we hack the security and have a gentle discussion about Hugo's decisions.
You cannot win. I, Hugo Strange, am your successor. I have saved Gotham.
For the record, that was a cutscene. I didn't press anything. Hugo is stabbed, and it turns out it was Ra's al Ghul the whole time. Good thing we didn't stop him earlier. Strange blows up the tower, which we save Ra's from. He isn't particularly grateful, and Joker got the upper hand on this legendary assassin and is threatening her life. We head in to face the Joker once again. Before we can do much, she stabs him. She then tries to hand us the cure. The world's greatest detective then figures out that there were two Jokers the whole time. The real one shoots Talia, the second Joker is revealed to be Clayface, who somehow gains a whole lot of mass for the final fight of the game. Aside from the complete disregard for the laws of reality, can we take a minute to address Talia? She has how many years experience stabbing people, and she didn't notice the difference between stabbing a person and a literal clay person? I'm not up to date on his lore, but can he change the consistency of himself so thoroughly that he feels like flesh? I don't know, just feels odd. Also, Detective Vision earlier showed a skeleton in the fake Joker. Does he just have a skeleton in him from someone else? He didn't have one in his cameo in Arkham Asylum. He apparently doesn't have one in the Joker fight from earlier, implying that it was Clayface. Really, there are a lot of hints, and they didn't do a terrible job of making that twist, but really, Talia, you should do better. Now, here comes what will maybe be another point of contention. Batarangs are a gadget. That's not up for debate. It's under the Gadget tab. Fight me! But if a boomerang shaped like a bat can be a gadget, I propose that a sword is also a gadget. You'll find that I did not use my hands nor feet. I did not headbutt nor knee this foe. I simply used a long slashy stabby gadget to disassemble him. Most of the first phase is just hitting him with ice grenades and blowing him up, super simple and gadget friendly. Then after the sword gadget treatment, phase 2. We can do some damage to him via ice grenades, but they'll stop working after a bit. Then it's a matter of killing his offspring using exclusively batarangs, because I know using the sword gadget is likely going to be upsetting to some. And holy shit, this took forever. My hands were so fucking tired by the end of this fight. You have to repeatedly defeat them to lower his overall health. Then when he pops up, you can ice grenade him. And it took ages. To make matters better, I thought the sound of the dudes dying was me accidentally misclicking and restarted. Turns out it makes sword sounds when you beat them with batarang. I guess the devs didn't think anyone would be stupid enough to do it this way and just tied the sound to their death instead of the weapon. Funny things you learn, right? After that restart, I also found that they can get stuck in the terrain really easily. The pipes along the room and the pit in the back make them untouchable, and if they all get caught, it makes the fight unwinnable. You can only spawn in more if the ones that are on screen already go down. So I had to restart again. The final and successful attempt took about 6 minutes and 47 seconds of nearly non-stop throwing action. I know it probably doesn't sound that bad, but it was unpleasant to say the least. With that though, the final prompt isn't even an attack, it simply says grab the vial. It doesn't sound violent to me. Well, the grabbing at least. And that's it. We sheath our sword, which we then throw, proving it's just as viable a gadget as our batarangs. We're finally cured, but left pondering whether or not we should help the mass-murdering clown, before the clown digs his own grave. And we see an end to the Clown Prince of Crime. You're a terrible person, but a great villain. Sorry to see you go, big guy. You fucking asshole! We're left on a bittersweet note. Countless people lay dead. Batman mourns his inability to save Joker. The world is left asking what the hell happened inside. Ignoring that Batman cares more about the Joker's death than the countless innocent people involved. And finally an answer. Bruce at the start of the game has to swing his shackles around. Batman has to swing a sword. If that counts as using non-gadget methods, then no. But if that's close enough for your taste, then yes. We sort of maybe beat Batman Arkham City, with gadgets only. Kind of. I hope I at least helped you reach an answer that you're comfortable with, be it yay or nay. But anyway, if you enjoyed this at all, please feel free to let me know. I'd love to hear your feedback, and I'd love to have you come along on future outings. This whole thing was somewhere between a nightmare and a joy to work on. I look forward to working on similar projects in the future. Until then, remember to stay safe, spread some kindness in the world, and I hope that you have a wonderful, wonderful rest of your day. Bye-bye.